Welcome to the Jammin' Show. My name's Ben Villers, and I'm a personal trainer here in Los Angeles, California. Welcome to my show. I appreciate y'all tuning in. And for today's episode, we've got a special guest, Ashley Grace, CMO of Igniton Quantum Wellness. And what's really good about this episode is we just made an episode last week about why I use supplements. And we discussed what essential supplements we should be taking, why we take them, and then to minimize the amount of extra supplements that we take. A lot of people get supplement happy and they get a lot of different things, and I think that is unnecessary. There's only a few essential supplements that I think people need, like protein or amino acids or creatine. But here we've got Ashley, the CMO of this company, this supplement quantum company, and he has a strong message for us. In this episode, we're going to be bridging practical fitness information with supplement transparency, and we're going to introduce quantum bioenergetics in a informative way. I'm not too aware of this myself, but I did do some research, so we're going to kind of bridge together a couple gaps. Ashley, how are you doing today?
Great. How are you, Ben? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on the show and talk to us. So like I said, in the last episode, we talked about why I personally use supplements and and how it keeps us being consistent, and it makes our lives convenient, and it allows for unsustainable nutrition to be sustainable. Having a good diet 365 days a year when we're really busy grinding is very difficult to do. So using supplements helps that convenience of our life and allowing us to be consistent. Supplements aren't making us healthy. Being consistent is what makes us healthy. So today we're going to go even deeper, having the CMO of a company jump on, and I'm going to really kind of set this tone and have him really explain why what he's doing really matters and the powerful message that we've got going on here. So Ashley, start off by telling us, what is quantum wellness?
Well, thanks, Ben. I like to say, honestly, let's just talk for a second about quantum before we get into the wellness application, right? I mean, we hear a lot about this. We like to say we're doing for the human body at Igniton what Google and NVIDIA are doing for computing and for technology, which is using the quantum field to improve the outcomes and the processing speed of our brains and our bodies and our internal wellness. But for those who are just wanting to think about like quantum at its most basic level, anything that the power of what you cannot see is how I always like to talk about this. For those who believe in prayer or meditation, that's dealing in the quantum field. For anybody that experiences love, that's a quantum field. The Maharishi effect, when people get together and meditate, to create, they have a shared intention and they create an outcome together through meditation. That's a quantum application. And these things have been researched for decades. So there's a field that exists that we are a part of called the quantum field. And, I think that people are just now starting to really wake up that we're a part of this. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it's not real. And the other example I like to give is our bodies are made up of billions or trillions of cells, right? I mean, that's what we consist of. Well, what is the intelligence that tells a certain group of cells to come together and formulate an eye? And how is that different than the same cells who are coming together to form a heart or a lung or a liver? There's an energy intelligence that exists that directs these cells on what they should become in order for us to even exist, right? So quantum is all of this and all the above, so to speak. And so what we're really doing, and we'll get into this as we go through the show, I'm sure, but in terms of how we do it, but that's what we're doing for our supplement ingredients, is we're bringing the power of the quantum field into the actual supplements that we provide. And we provide two right now. We focus one product on cognition, which has to do with memory and processing speed and attention. And we have another supplement focused on longevity, which is focused more on the biomarkers associated with healthy aging. Things like stress and inflammation markers for IL-6 or CRP or GGT, those types of things. But regardless of the application or the product, the application of what we're doing is bringing that quantum energy in to the fields of these supplement powders so that they work better. And you don't have to take my word for it. We've done university studies that have been published in peer-reviewed journals that show that the quantum charging process, as we call it, actually delivers results that exceed the same ingredients that don't have the quantum charge or a placebo. And so that's really what we're talking about, is bringing in the power of the quantum field into a supplement that you consume into your body to have an enhanced impact.
What is that quantum charge?
So what we're doing is, it's called Ignitons. And what Ignitons are, is it's a quantum energy field that comes from the sun. So the sun is and I'll make sure to try to explain this simply, and please ask questions as you go, but I don't want to get into a real boring physics conversation, so to speak here, but it's a great question, and it's good to explain kind of what it is that we're doing. The sun, as part of its activity in nature, creates clouds of plasma that are highly charged with electrons. The sun also creates photons that come to Earth, and we see those in the form of light. Well, when the photons pass through these clouds of plasma that are around the sun, there's a nuclear reaction that occurs, and ignitons is the energy waves that are created through this reaction. And those energy waves travel through space and through time to reach Earth, and they're going through our bodies by the billions every second. They go through walls, they're neutral, they're not magnetic, so they just pass right through us. And our body naturally accumulates some of them, but as we get inside with LED lights, we have bad air, we have bad food, we have stress and anxiety in our lives and all this kind of stuff, our ability to absorb these ignitons gets inhibited. And so we're not consuming them in a way, we're not absorbing them, in a way that nature had intended, due to primarily to our lifestyle and the situations in our society these days. What we do is we've created an environment in our laboratory setting that allows us to harness this same energy technology and then direct it into the powders of the supplements that we're providing. And Ignitons were discovered in a private lab in Switzerland. Some of your viewers may have heard of the organization called CERN, located in Switzerland. Our facility was located near CERN, and we were using equipment that was rented from CERN. It actually discovered this energy back in the late 90s, and our founder, who's a very well-off business person and entrepreneur, became aware of this and started investing his own personal money into bringing this technology to life, brought on investors, and we launched our product at Dave Asprey's biohacking event in May of this year.
So when we're making a supplement, there's the ingredients of whatever you're trying to make, but then there's a way of supercharging those specific ingredients in a separate process. So by having your batch of ingredients for whatever it is that you're trying to make, and if you took that same batch to the side, what you guys are doing is you're enhancing those ingredients through a quantum process with involving sunlight, something of that nature.
That's exactly right. We're recreating in our lab the same environment that happens on the sun. So we are obviously that you can't do exactly that because we can't create the sun, but we can create the same sort of similar reactions that can occur, which is what we do. And so we're using, literally tens of millions of dollars have been invested in the equipment that we have here in Colorado. We've got huge vacuums, space vacuums that create a vacuum equivalent to about 1/1 billionth of the atmosphere. Inside of that vacuum, we place all of our supplement powders when we're giving them the quantum charge. We then introduce a cloud of plasma inside of this vacuum chamber, again, trying to mirror and mimic what's going on with the sun out in space and with the plasma clouds that are surround the sun. And then that charged plasma is full of electrons inside of this vacuum that we've created. We then introduce laser photonic systems to bring the photons into play. The photons then interact with the electrons in the plasma cloud. They create the igniton energy. We then direct that energy into the powders that are being embedded or charged with ignitons. And what happens from there is a reaction occurs where the igniton energy binds to the proton of the hydrogen atom of each one of our supplement ingredients. So we're using all organic compounds that contain hydrogen by nature. We're then embedding or charging the igniton quantum energy into that hydrogen atom of each one of the compounds, and it binds to it through a geometrical process, and that's what holds the charge of the igniton energy.
Okay. So now we have a good understanding of what is going on when you guys are making your product. But now tell me a little bit about quantum wellness. What is that in your view?
It's really the future of medicine and health and in general. These energy fields that surround us, the quantum field that's around us all the time that we're a part of. Really practitioners are just now starting to understand and tap into this. I live here in Boulder, Colorado, and you're in Los Angeles, so I'm sure there's a lot of energy healers around your neck of the woods, just like there are here. Kinesiology, Reiki, those types of things are focused on the energy fields associated with the body, even dating into, back to acupuncture. Acupuncture is dealing with the movement of energy throughout the meridians of our body. That's a quantum application. They're using a physical material needle to stimulate the flow of that energy, but the energy itself is quantum in nature. So I think that what's old is new again. This is ancient medicine in a lot of ways, but people are starting to wake up to the reality that a lot of times things that happen and go wrong with our bodies happen in our energetic fields before they show up in our material body. So I think that the future of health and wellness in general is going to be quantum.
So tell me, do you feel like that people are already doing a form of quantum wellness without them even knowing? Like, for example, lifting weights, eating whole foods, getting sunlight, making sure they're hydrated, making sure they have enough sleep. Those are all things that when we do them, we don't see the process after. So, for example, when we lift the weights, we don't see all the electrical signaling and the protein synthesis occurring after we lift weights. Or when we're eating foods, we're not seeing the digestion period and what's going on after we eat food. Or when we get sunlight, we don't see what's happening in our body after we get sunlight. So with all those processes, would you say that people are already partaking in quantum wellness, or is there a specific thing that someone's missing in order for it to be quantum wellness?
Well, it's an existential question, right? Where does the material world that we live in start and stop versus the spiritual and energetic world that we also live in? I think the examples that you're giving, I think, are more, at least in my mind, and I certainly think that you could debate these perspectives across the board, but I think what you're talking about is more of the material impact. Like, what I eat actually materially becomes my body. When I'm lifting weights or exercising, I'm materially impacting my body through the muscles, through the cardiovascular system, through the mitochondria and the ATP energy that's created. All of that can really be quantified more in the material concept. I think where it gets into more quantum is more around what's harder to measure, right? The area of meditation, of praying, of having gratitude. Those are things that I think people are doing every day, and they don't necessarily correlate it to being a quantum activity. But I think that's where the energetic field is probably taking a little bit more of the load of what's happening in the formation of that person's reality versus exercise and energetics and things like that, which are more material oriented. You have to have both for health and wellness. There's no doubt about it. We've been given these bodies, and we have to honor them and take care of them and treat them right, which involves eating the right things, diet, exercise, but it also involves at an increasing rate now as people are becoming aware of the energetic fields that are out there and that we're a part of. It also involves the aspects of like I said, meditation, gratitude, being thankful for things, expressing that either intrinsically in my mind or expressing it, verbally.
So let's go back down that list. Well, we definitely agree about the energetic fields in the world. It's not a believer in energy there. It's factual energy. We discussed this a lot, but I definitely see what you're saying in regard to materialistic, like fitness, and more fitness you can't see, quantum wellness. So let's go back down that list so people can understand. So we would consider lifting weights not really quantum. It's more materialistic wellness. Is that the right term I'm using?
I don't know that there's really a right term, Ben. I think it's just, does it make sense to your audience? And I think it does. That you can see the evidence of your muscles getting stronger or more toned, right? So and we understand, how protein is utilized by the body to then grow those muscles, and so there's more of a materialistic science around that, versus the more energetic applications of visualizing yourself as being, having the toned body, visualizing yourself as being in shape. That's more of the quantum aspect of what you're talking about, and it definitely plays a role. As we where your mind goes, your energy flows, right? So if you put your mind to that while you're working out to build up your muscles, if you're also thinking about looking good and being toned and being healthy, you're working on that regard on both aspects of it.
So it's really like quantum or not. So let's kind of go back down that list. So lifting weights, we would say, is not really quantum as much, because you made a lot of sense. You exercise, you lift weights, you see the results. So not quite exactly there. So what about eating whole foods, quantum or not?
I would probably go not, even though it's probably one of the most important things. Not probably, it is.
Yeah.
You can't even get to this conversation if you're not eating the right
No, for sure.
foods.
We're definitely not discounting if it's important or not, more just like the understanding of quantum wellness as a whole, because we already know eating whole foods and healthy is like super important. But eating whole foods, we would say, is what did you say, not quantum or quantum?
Not quantum.
Not quantum. Okay, now me standing outside on my balcony and getting sunlight, quantum or not quantum?
I'd probably go more quantum in that level, even though there's going to be scientific materialistic science evidence of the benefits of that sunlight. But typically, if you're out doing that, your mind is probably in a state of meditation, literally, or in more of a calm state. So you are making more of an intentional move to kind of absorb some energy, as opposed to thinking about really trying to, what are all the benefits of that light that's doing to your body from a materialistic standpoint, which it is doing. It definitely is working on the material side too.
Okay. Now, hydration, quantum or not quantum?
I would probably go again, not quantum in this simplistic conversation, even though without having the hydration, our bodies are like electrical instruments. So if you don't have the hydration, then the electricity is not going to fire, right? And therefore your quantum aspect is not going to come through either. But from a physical standpoint, and in this analogy that you're drawing, I would probably vote non-quantum.
Yeah, it's probably similar to the whole foods.
Yep.
Yeah. And then last one, sleep, quantum or not quantum?
Again, one of those that can go both ways, right? But I think physically speaking, we all know from a materialistic science standpoint what the negative impacts of lack of sleep are. So I would say it's probably a non-quantum. But again, if you clear the energy off of your body at night before you go to sleep, literally getting rid of that negative energy and bringing in, a voice of gratitude to yourself, you're certainly putting yourself more in a quantum state before you go to sleep, so that the physical aspects of sleep can actually be even more beneficial to you, because you've got yourself into the right quantum mindset before you go to sleep.
So now some examples of quantum wellness. You already said a couple. You said praying, meditation, gratitude, and thankfulness. Is there any other examples of quantum wellness that you can share with us?
Well, I think the big one is love, and right there with love is joy, and at the top of the vibrational spectrum is bliss. If any of your listeners follow Dr. Joe Dispenza, he talks a lot about these different levels of energy and vibration. but those are, I think, the top three. If you count them down from number one being bliss, number two being joy, and number three being love, I think those are the three. I believe I've got them in the right order. The top three vibrational dimensions that exist in our reality. In addition to, as you move on down through some of the others that you mentioned with gratitude and so forth.
So, because we want to really help the people listening to this episode, how does someone work on their quantum wellness?
Well, really, it starts, I always start every conversation with diet. We've talked about that. And again, your audience is probably pretty well in tune with that, but it's our world is getting harder and harder to live in from a diet perspective, because the foods are so contaminated, that most of us and many people, the largest expenditure that they make in their day or week or month or year is the food they eat. And it's definitely more expensive to eat right, to support that, the quantum wellness. But, clean, organic foods that are free of pesticides and herbicides and Roundup and all that kind of stuff certainly enhance your body's ability to operate efficiently and effectively and heal itself, and to feel good as you go about your day. Number two, I would think is definitely exercise and movement. There's studies that have been done that show even just a modest amount of walking or moving is associated with better brain health and stronger mitochondrial growth. So that's something that's very, very real. There's physical aspects of that, obviously, that are there, but it also clears your mind and it allows you to process stress and anxiety in a better way. And then number three, meditation or prayer, whatever you want to call it. I know they're not the same thing, but to many of us, it's a time to, whether you're and when I talk about meditation and prayer, I'm generally talking about being thankful, expressing my gratitude to the higher power that exists, whether you call it God or source or the energy field that surrounds us. We're definitely part of something greater than ourselves. And I think the easiest way for those who may be struggling with the concept of prayer and meditation, the easiest way to kind of bridge that gap for people is to think about what you're thankful for, right? And just take a couple of deep breaths and quietly repeat to yourself in your mind or verbally in an audible fashion what you're thankful for. And those three things, diet, exercise, and prayer or meditation, certainly set your body up to be able to respond better to a quantum wellness protocol such as that we provide. We like to say, if you're not taking care of these three items and you're not more open to having a better life, a better world, and being more positive, then don't try our products. Because frankly, we find that the people who are open to these concepts have the better outcomes from the quantum charging process that we're able to deliver, which again kind of makes sense when you think about all this energetically.
And actually, that last line you just said, this is something that I tell my clients all the time. There's something about when someone always complains about an exercise, a specific exercise, or always being like, I hate this one, they seem to never really get better at it because they're always just kind of fighting the natural process and the why of we're doing it in the first place. And I always tell them, you don't have to love everything that we do, but there's a reason why we're doing everything that we do. So having this open mindedness and this willingness to do some of the exercises you don't want to do, but understanding again why and how, you get better at it. You actually get better at that exercise, and then eventually you don't hate that specific exercise as much because now you're just getting better at it. A lot of the times people don't like a certain exercise because they don't think they're not good at it. They don't feel good about it and they think it's pointless. But when you are more welcoming and open to why we're doing it and then just doing it, it becomes much easier to do overall. So I've observed that same thing on the fitness floor in the gym. But continuing to talk about quantum wellness, so do you feel like in order to take your quantum wellness to another level, it is a bit of a mindset as well? Because some of the things that you're saying are also what people fight against. I know many people who don't pray. I know many people who don't meditate. I know many people who aren't really showing much gratitude. Many people aren't very thankful. A lot of people struggle with love. A lot of people don't really have a lot of joy in their life. And a lot of people, the word bliss, they're not blissful. So would you say step one in having good quantum wellness is being open to these concepts and more, because we know that doing all of those things are healthy and good for you, but you can't see any of the things really going on. It's in the details. So would you say with quantum wellness, and for someone to be very quantum wellness healthy, they need to have an openness to these concepts in the first place?
Absolutely. It all starts, and I love this part of the conversation, Ben, where you're going with it. It all starts with your attitude, right? Attitude is the ultimate quantum dimension. If you really want to break it down, as I'm talking to you, it's starting to become more clear in my awareness and my consciousness that's where the quantum dimension of what we're talking about starts. It's your attitude about life. It's your attitude about the day. And I think you'll find, and again, I know people struggle. I've been there myself, and I go there still myself. Stress and anxiety, things they're never perfect every single day for any of us. But I think what we can do every single day is to have the right attitude, to be open to this concept that there is an energy field that we're a part of. And again, whether you want to call it God, source, or energy, it's not a religious conversation, but it's very much a spiritual conversation. And there is no doubt about it, there's an energy field that we are a part of that we cannot see. We only see, we've got some charts that I show when I present at conferences and things. There's a visible light spectrum, right, that exists, and that is a very tiny sliver of what our eyes can actually perceive in terms of light. It's almost, if you just look at the grand spectrum of energy across the universe and you think of it in that context, we're almost blind, because we see only a tiny amount of what's around us at any given moment. And so many of us think that if we can't see it, then it's not real. And what we see is more real than what we don't see. And all of that just gets involved and affects our attitude. So if you can find it in yourself, at some point in your day, to find something that you're thankful for, and to take a few deep breaths and to express gratitude to the higher power, to the energy field, to God, whatever you want to call it, that you're thankful for that. I'm thankful to have a warm bed to sleep in. I'm thankful for this glass of clean water that I have right now. I'm thankful for my friend that I have. Maybe I don't have a lot of friends, but maybe I have somebody in my life that's really close to me that I really have a lot of gratitude for. Maybe I love, or maybe I really am fond of. And again, I get it. Life's not perfect for anybody, and I don't want to minimize any troubles that people are going through. But you have to be able to start with the right attitude, and you can build on that. It's like your example of taking the exercise. If you can only do a couple of reps of an exercise and you don't really like it, but if you keep working at it, you're going to start to be able to do more reps of that, and eventually you're going to find out, hey, I really like that. Maybe my muscles have gotten stronger now. I feel a sense of accomplishment because I've been able to do that. Everything else in life is the same way. It starts with that attitude and finding something and one little thing that you can be grateful or thankful that you have, or that you're experiencing. And if you focus on that, even for a few minutes each day, you're going to start to find that there's more things that you're thankful for. You have more gratitude, and you'll be able to build on that, and your attitude will become more positive.
You started the episode saying that quantum is the future. And now I'm starting to understand what you mean by that. So what I've tied together here is, like, back in the day, people would be called weak or soft if they were complaining about their mental health, or if they were being like too thankful for things, or like, oh, praying is silly, or meditation doesn't make sense, or all of these things back in the day, you would be called like weak. Not strong, and everything was very physical. So have to exercise, live by societal norms. That is what was considered strong or weak. and then those invisible things were not important, not real, irrelevant. But society is trending towards mental health, being compassionate, showing gratitude, being loving, having joy, having a good attitude. Those are all concepts that have in theory been around forever, but have been lost in society because you were just labeled as weak. And now it's becoming a strength, and you can improve on that. You can improve how happy you are in life without being super rich, super successful, super anything, just like enjoying life. It can be way worse, but I really enjoy how life is. Or I've been looking for love forever, but instead of like looking for it, letting it come to you. These are all trends that I definitely see continuing to go into the future. So quantum wellness here is making a lot of sense to me. And then one thing as well that you said is meditation. So meditation, teaching someone meditation, one of the and breathing exercises, one of the first steps in this is having the person understand that it's real. And it's not no voodoo magic. It's real, but you just can't see it initially. You have to teach the person what to pay attention to and how to do the meditation correctly. There's different skill levels, beginner, medium, expert levels of meditation and breathing exercises. But I see the same concept here with meditation and breathing. You don't see it. A lot of people are like, yeah, I don't meditate, or like, I don't think it's legit or whatever, but that's factually not correct. But you just have to be taught it and understand. So that first step is having a belief that it's there, even though you can't see it.
Absolutely.
So that makes a lot of sense to me.
Like I said, we only see we see a fraction of what's around us at any given time, right? And we've been conditioned to believe that that's our reality, is what we see, and only our reality. And it's just not true. It's a fallacy. I often talk about, in part of the Igniton, one of the things that our product, like I mentioned, we have the brain formulation focused on memory and cognition. We have a longevity formulation focused on inflammation and stress markers. But one of the things that both of our products do through the process of Ignitons is it actually increases your body's ability to absorb and emit light. I don't know if you're aware, or your audience is aware, that we are light beings. We're literally life. When the sperm fertilizes the egg, the very first thing that happens is there's a spark of light. There's been studies done, and one that I'm most familiar with in 2009 showed that this light doesn't stop with that flash of light at birth. We continue to emit light throughout our life as long as we're alive. The body literally glimmers, and the changes in this light field around our body are correlated to our energy, to our metabolism and to our health and wellness. There was a study done earlier this year that said that the indicators of health and disease are physiologically relevant to this light that's released by our body. So can we see that? I mean, most of us can't. There are people who sometimes say that they can see an aura around people's bodies, but most of us kind of think, oh, that's voodoo, or that's witchcraft, or that's not real. But what's not, it is real, and what's not real is us thinking that it's not there because we can't see it. But it's most definitely is, and the scientists are measuring this as we speak. So light itself is a big part of what we're talking about. And the more that you're able to focus on gratitude, I mean, obviously our supplements can help with that, but outside of spending the money to take a supplement, if you can start focusing on your attitude and having gratitude and being thankful and finding love and compassion, as you mentioned, which is another good one, compassion for other people, all of those things will eventually, the more that you focus on them, the more that they'll enhance your body's ability to give out a coherent light field. And that's health and wellness. Again, these scientists now are discovering that light field, when it gets disrupted, it's a precursor to disease and lack of wellness.
You kind of answered the question I'm about to ask, but I'm going to take it up one more notch here. What we discussed before jumping on the episode was why most supplements let people down. So how is Igniton different from the standard supplement? And why does Igniton live up to its name and not letting people down?
Well, I think ultimately it's because of physically we're quantum charging the powders, right? Now the evidence of that, because again, I like to say, don't take my word for it. That's what we're doing. But we have to express some kind of physical evidence for people to understand why this is important, right? So we have university studies that have been published in peer-reviewed journals that show for our cognition product better outcomes on memory and attention and quality of mental performance compared to the same ingredients that don't have the quantum charge and compared to placebo. Same thing on the longevity side. We've got this evidence in these university study, peer-reviewed journal publication that shows that our longevity products and our formulation, when it's charged with the Ignitons, actually performs better than the exact same ingredients that don't have the charge, or better than placebo. So technically speaking, that's why the Igniton products are different, and why they have an improved outcome. But as we spoke earlier, probably the most important thing is being open to this before you just start taking it. I like to say to people, you're not going to supplement your way out of a bag of chips, right? If you don't want to change your life and you just want the easy magic pill to make have better memory or to have a healthier stress biomarker, don't try our product, right? There is no magic pill. There is a lifestyle that our products can be a part of to lead you to a better outcome, whether it's memory or stress and inflammation markers, no doubt about it. And I think in general, the biggest problem out there with other supplements isn't necessarily the other supplements. It's that we as a society just generally want to have a magic pill. And that's, as you know, you're a personal trainer. You can't just snap your fingers and all of a sudden be in shape. You've got to put in the work. You got to show up day to day. You got to have persistence and discipline. And that's from quantum wellness standpoint, you have to have that same sort of approach. It's just a little bit different. It's more of a discipline on your attitude. And then all of that can flow forward, and our supplements can even enhance the outcomes further.
If someone already trains, they eat well, they sleep, they stay hydrated, what does Igniton supplement add to those people?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that I don't know if you know this, but I just found this out in the last couple of weeks doing research for preparing for things like this. How old do you think, Ben, the average age of the onset of dementia is?
Like when someone starts to get dementia?
Yeah.
If I had to take a guess without looking this up at all, I would say 60.
It's 47 years old. And that blew me away. I'm well on the other side of that, right? And I remember, like, what was I thinking when I was 30? And I was, you can relate to these types of things. Also, so the average age of someone getting dementia today is 47. Mitochondria, 50% of people that are aged 30 or younger have early mitochondria deficiencies. And natural aging, we lose 50% of our mitochondria between the ages of 30 and 70. So for someone who's working out, I would say good for you. You're on the right track. Make sure you add in, eating right. Make sure you add in attitude and gratitude and focusing on the positivity in your life. And then if you're thinking about maybe, certain things run in your family, or maybe, you've seen your mother or father or grandfather struggle, or grandmother struggle with memory or cognition, and you start thinking about some of these stats that we just said about dementia and mitochondrial decline, you really want to try to get a control of these things before you reach your 40s and 50s, right? It's more your late 20s and your 30s when you really want to be thinking about taking care of your mind and your body, so that you can have a more resilient and positive life as you enter these aging decades.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to just wellness overall, and we're going to run through a couple questions, and of course give your answer, but we're going to kind of hit through them relatively quickly, because you're one of the experts and we would love to have your opinion. What are the most powerful, low cost, no supplement habits for improving your cellular energy? So what habits that aren't necessarily supplements can someone do to enhance their cellular energy?
Well, I think we've hit on a lot of these already. So, I think it's, having a good organic whole foods diet, exercising as much as you can, and meditating or praying as much as you can. And again, factoring those into your life. Again, we don't have the luxury of having, most of us don't, of having just endless amounts of time where we can focus on these things every single day. And also that there's different levels of cost associated with these things. So I think those are the three things. Ultimately the lowest cost thing you can possibly do is exercise. You don't need to go to a gym, even though it's better for you. Probably there's more activities. You can just do air squats, you can do push-ups, you can do sit-ups, you can walk around the block. All of that wouldn't cost anything. And it doesn't cost anything to have 5 or 10 minutes every day of quiet gratitude.
Okay, so those were some habits to improve some cellular energy. But now, what are 2 to 3 daily habits for someone to get the best return on their investment of doing this habit to help enhance like their mood or their energy or their focus?
Well, I think honestly, they all kind of go the same route. The things that I just mentioned are not only going to help with your cellular energy and the mitochondria, but they're going to help you with your ultimately your mood and your focus as well, because especially the attitude part of it. Again, life is hard. We all, I don't know very many people who are living in bliss 100% of the time. I think the key really is finding when you are in that bliss and recognizing it and being thankful for it. So I think ultimately that's how you really impact your mood. And I think you'll find if you do these things, that positive energy that you're bringing to the table is going to radiate from you, and it's going to be more of a magnet for more people to come toward you and enter your circle that are of a like mind or a like attitude.
Yeah, I've told people that by having a good positive energy and by understanding that you are the manufacturer of positive energy and not letting other people disrupt that energy, nor having the ability to disrupt your energy, actually gives you more energy. It's like really
Absolutely.
weird. I like being positive and not being like annoyingly positive, but just having this like positive energy. It allows you to not be as tired. And this is so real because this is a discovery that I've made organically over the year. And it's so real. So
it's so real, Ben. You're exactly right. And I need to give you one other example. I think your audience will appreciate this. I referred to it earlier as the Maharishi effect. Igniton, the company that I represent, is owned by a company called Gaia Inc., which is a streaming media platform. We like to say it's the Netflix for consciousness programming. And Gaia has done a couple of experiments. They went and they worked with Princeton University and the Washington, D.C. police force. And they brought forward a couple thousand people to meditate to see if they could actually decrease the crime in Washington, D.C. They came together on a daily basis for 1 week and they meditated in a group setting where they all had the same intention of lowering this crime rate. After 1 week of focused positive intent, the crime in Washington, D.C. dropped by 27%. A lot of people said, hey, that's an accident, that can't be real, that's a coincidence. So Gaia said, okay, we'll do it again. So they went to they focused on an area in Louisville, Kentucky that had one of the worst crime rates in the nation. They brought together, it was a bigger area, so they brought together more meditators, and they did the same thing. They focused their intention on lowering crime in Louisville, Kentucky for 1 week of meditations. The crime in Louisville dropped 47% after they did that. So this is proving your point exactly. The more positive that you can be, and again, it doesn't mean like being, the person who's just ridiculously positive in the face of negativity. We're all human. We're all going to have moments where, we're going to express disappointment, or there's going to be some anxiety that we're going to face because something didn't go our way. But it's the general prevailing attitude, I think, is what you're talking about. And that's we have evidence. Again, these are 2 examples that Gaia did, but there's the Maharishi effect is a book. This gentleman was the founder of Transcendental Meditation, and he did dozens of these experiments across the 1970s and 1980s. This is a very real phenomenon. The more positive you are, you bring people to you. If you all are more positive, your reality starts to shift to be more a positive reality that you're experiencing.
And it's about being a conscious positivity. It's not, again, this obnoxious positivity, which is very real, where you're just kind of just positive about everything. But it's like you're just very conscious about how your exact attitude is and how you are emitting your energy towards people, which most people are not paying attention to. What they are doing is, like, of course, they're talking clearly, they're trying to be presentable, they're trying to get through the moment, but they're not thinking about, oh, what kind of energy am I radiating to this person right now? What kind of tone of voice am I giving off to these people right now while in the middle of the conversation? So before the conversation, they're being, like, they're being taught by their parents or themselves or whatever, be positive, be well spoken, have a good attitude, make sense with what you're saying. But when you're able to be conscious in the moment and being able to control your emotions so that they're just consistently positive, people feel that. They also feel negative energy. So you can walk up to a stranger on the street and not really have that much to say, but by approaching them with a good tone of voice and with positive energy that you're very specifically giving off, there'll only be a moment or two before you catch their attention and they begin to align with your energy and are willing to at least have a very decent little conversation with you. Anyone who's paying attention to these things, which I am, Ashley is, you can feel when the energy connects with the person. And that is all a very conscious thing. It's the subconscious feel it. They're like, oh, I felt this person's good energy. They say it, they talk about it. But people who are really powerful and really have the ability to control audiences and manipulate positively or negatively, they understand the energy that's coming from them and how to harness it and control it. And this is incredibly real, but this ties back into quantum, things you can't see, but it's there. And these things are scientifically proven in a physical, materialistic way, but they're in a controlled environment. So, like, in order to see the physical, they're in a controlled environment. You don't see them live, but they are proven.
And well, it's interesting you bring this up because the founder of our company, one of the other dimensions, obviously improving people's brains and supporting strong memory and cognition and attention, strong, healthy aging biomarkers. Those are the explicit functional benefits of what our products at Igniton do. I talked earlier about also, the increasing our body's ability to emit light and to emit a more coherent light field. One of the other dimensions of what we're doing is consciousness. And I found that's one of his main objectives, is to increase the level of consciousness among society. And our products absolutely deliver that. It's a little bit harder to comprehend. It's a little bit harder to scientifically prove through university study and peer review, but it's absolutely a part of what we're bringing to the table with Igniton. And I give you a great example. I've noticed this in my own life. I just had an encounter over the holidays. We're together with family and friends and loved ones. And, sometimes, after the days go by, some of those conversations can be annoying, right? We all have those people that sometimes it's just like, I'm ready for them to go home, or I've had enough. I don't really want to hear that person's thoughts anymore. There was one person that I was spending some time with this past weekend, and I said something in the context of talking to some other people, and she overheard the conversation and she interjected something very negative directed toward me. In the past, my behavior would have been to just turn and just unleash and let her have it, right? That's just been my nature. And I'm very proud of myself because I attribute a lot of this to my own attitude, but also to, the fact that I've been taking Igniton now for about 6 months. And I was able to, in that moment, I was able to pause, and I could, instead of reacting like I typically would have around this person, I was able to pause, and I thought to myself, what would my soul really want me to, how would my soul really want me to behave here? And I was able to just calmly ignore it, and turn my attention back to the people that I was talking to, and just let that whole negativity go. And it seemed like it went into slow motion for me, but it all happened very quickly. It was just kind of like, boom. I was like, my presence was, wow, don't react like you normally would have reacted, right?
Well, usually when someone reacts, and I'm guilty. So growing up, I had anger issues, and I've had to work through anger issues. But being angry is a form of reacting. And when you get angry and you get triggered, you react in a way that can get you in trouble. But by being awake and conscious of a situation, instead of like reacting and taking what someone's doing to you in a reactive way, listen to what they say, but then you rise up and you tell yourself, while they're communicating with you, I can control this situation.
Right.
So then you respond back to them in a way that is in a controlling way. By reacting this way, by communicating this way, it won't get into a consistent like fight, escalate, then get out of hand. You can, of course, be you can combat back, but in a conscious way. And again, it's not being obnoxiously positive. So by responding to someone who's coming at you in a positively obnoxious way, like kind of like clueless or like ignorant, is not good either. But right. By understanding the situation, like, okay, this person's yelling at me, they're triggered, they're wild right now, but I can control this situation by responding back to them in a calm tone of voice and just speaking with them in a very calm way, and even having the discussion back and forth. But that can really tone things down. But this is another situation of your energy has the ability to control situations in a much more powerful way than you ever really can understand before you understand this. And that means is speaking in front of a camera, having an audience. I think a really good example is speaking to a loved one. Sometimes people in relationships have disagreements that can potentially escalate, but by being really aware of the tone of your voice and the energy you're radiating, you can really control that situation without it getting out of hand and being reactionary. So all these things, very, very real concepts.
Well, it speaks, Ben, to what you said earlier about, being weak, or, there's a perception many of us were brought up with, and it's part of the ego mind, right? Where it's being weak to kind of turn the other cheek in that scenario, or to take the high road. And, your ego says, put this person in her place, make sure she understands how smart you are, right? And you're not going to take this kind of talk from that person. And all those types of things happen. And really, I would argue, what's really weak is responding to that. What's really strong is what you've just described, which is being able to recognize, be present, and recognize in the moment that you don't want to respond. You want to respond in a more positive way, not overtly positive, but in a more positive way by diffusing the situation, or, turning the other cheek and moving on with your life, and just ignoring it even is a better response than escalating it into an argument or a fight.
Absolutely. And then you can also take the same level of awareness for everything. Selling, building business, creating a team, training a client, being on the phone. We're almost done with the episode, but once I started to understand these concepts that we're talking about, my energy awareness, the power of my tone of voice, what's crazy is all of a sudden I began to close deals like crazy. So once I started understanding these concepts, what happened is I started cold calling old leads, and I started cold calling new leads, and my level of success for keeping them on the phone and convincing them, it completely changed. Because what I used to do is I would cold call them, and I would try and memorize what I was trying to say, and convince them on the phone. But when I started understanding that I've got this power in the way I conduct myself and my tone of voice, and I was genuinely finding out how they feel and how they're doing and how I can serve them and what value can I serve them instead of just straight up selling them and memorizing stuff, it completely changed my conversion rates. Completely. My intention changed and my closing rates changed. And I was able to keep people on the phone for longer, even if they weren't buying. I was getting people to transact even if they weren't expecting to. when back in the day, my rate was like 0. And then when I'm meeting new people, it's just so easy to close them. I mean, granted, when someone's contacting me, it's a pretty warm lead at that point, but sometimes you talk too much or you fumble your words, or you tell like they got to think about it or whatever. But when I started understanding these concepts and I realized I had this power, I was able to just like close those people just so quickly, so effortlessly. So this stuff is super, super powerful, but you can't see any of it. 225 on the bench, pretty powerful stuff. It's just on, like, it's there. Someone being able to lift it requires physical power. Being able to, that's a good example right there. But then when it comes to like breathing, meditating, controlling your energy, your tone of voice, those are things you cannot see, but you can strengthen all of those. And that also, to me, solidifies the material and the physical side of this. You can't see it, but at the cellular level, they are there, like under a magnetoscope, under a scope, or however we're looking at them. This is all measurable, and they're physically there, but to the human eye, we just can't see it. And when I understood these concepts, everything got elevated for me.
Yeah, I think it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, what you're talking about is what Nikola Tesla talked about. You know, if you want to understand the universe, think in the terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. I mean, if you really think about what he's saying there, he's talking about the quantum reality. He's talking about the energy. Like, that's what, you know, I don't know the exact reference point, but, you know, you read about 99% of the universe being dark matter, right? And that really, when they look inside of atoms and they look inside of, you know, the cellular structures, there's just vast amounts of space. There's nothing there, right? But there's an energy or a frequency or a vibration that holds these structures together, that creates the visual aspect of what we call matter. And I think, you know, again, to your point, you can't see it, but that doesn't mean it's not real, and it's actually the essence of our universe. And I've had some people talk to me before about Ignitons, and they say, well, isn't that just pseudoscience, right? That you don't really have a lot to prove here. You got these university studies, and I always point people to that. Well, we have the studies of the outcomes. So there is tangible science there that we can rely upon. But I think a lot of people misuse the term pseudoscience, because pseudoscience, if you look it up, it's basically, it ignores contradictory evidence. And there's contradictory evidence all over the place with regards to what you're talking about and what we're talking about in this conversation. Energy, frequency, and vibration cause all kinds of things to happen that are contradictory to material science. And material science generally just looks away because they can't see it, so they just don't want to even talk about it. And that's really pseudoscience, is that ignoring it and pretending that it doesn't exist.
The pseudoscience that people claim is pseudoscience, they are actually the ones involved with pseudoscience.
Exactly.
For sure. So we're going to wrap this up. I want to finish on a couple of last things. So as the CMO, someone who has accomplished a lot in their life, so someone with wise words of wisdom, if someone is listening and wants to feel better about themselves this week, what do you say are 1 or 2 things that they should do?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what we've talked about, which is be thankful. Be thankful for yourself, right? I mean, at the very end of the day, be thankful for your life. And if you start exploring that and playing with that a little bit in your daily routine, you know, try it when you wake up in the morning, try it when you go to bed at night. And I think you'll start to see that there's more things that start to appear in your reality that you are thankful for. And you'll start to see that build upon itself. At least that's how it's worked with me. And how I believe it works with just about everybody that I talk to that actually practices these things.
Well, you guys heard it from the man himself, the CMO of Igniton. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
Great job today, Ashley. I really appreciate you joining the show. I thought we talked about a lot of really powerful stuff. And until next time, folks, have a great rest of your day. Take care.
Thanks, man.